Okay, so big news in the AI world, right? We've got to talk about Meta, their new LLaMA 4.0. This isn't just, a little update.
No, no, not a
This
bit.
is a real leap forward, I think, based on everything we've been reading.
Definitely, yeah.
So in this deep dive, let's try to really break it down. What are the most important things people need to understand about LLaMA 4.0? Like, what's the significance of it?
Absolutely. I think it's about, cutting through the hype. There's a lot of noise out there. What we want to do is deliver those core insights.
Right. No one wants to wade through a ton of jargon.
Exactly.
So we want to look at how it's getting more efficient, how they're making these models bigger and more capable without them becoming these huge resource hogs.
Scalability, right. It's a big one.
Big one. And then this whole thing about multimodality, it's not just text anymore.
It's a game changer. It can handle images, video, audio.
It's wild. And then, of course, we have to talk about how it stacks up against the other big players out there like GPT-4, Claude 3, Google's Gemini 1.5.
The competitive landscape is heating up. It's fascinating to watch.
Yeah. So ready to dive in.
Let's do it.
All right. One of the first things that jumped out at me from the research was this idea of specialization within LLaMA 4.0. Like, they're not just making one massive model that does everything.
Right. It's like instead of a one-size-fits-all model, they've developed specific versions tuned for, particular tasks, particular strengths. It's a smart approach.
Yeah. So, for example, you've got LLaMA 4 Scout. Now, what makes Scout unique?
Well, one of the things that's interesting about Scout is its design. It's very compact. It's optimized to run on a single NVIDIA H100 GPU, which is impressive. But here's a real kicker. It has a 10 million token context window.
10 million. That's huge. For someone like me who, I do a lot of reading for the show, a lot of research, what does that practically mean? Like, what can I do with 10 million tokens?
Well, imagine you're dealing with a massive document. I mean, really long, think legal contracts, those long scientific papers, huge archives of data. LLaMA 4 Scout can process all of that essentially at once.
Wow.
So you can do much deeper analysis. You can find connections across these vast data sets.
So it can remember more of what it's read.
Exactly. And the summaries it can generate are incredible, like really comprehensive without losing any of the important details. It's a whole new level of efficiency when you're dealing with large amounts of information.
All right. So Scout is for those really big, long form tasks. Then you've got LLaMA for Maverick. Now, what's Maverick all about?
Maverick is all about performance. It's designed to compete with, some of those top-tier proprietary models like GPT-4o. And from what we're seeing, it's achieving comparable results. It's particularly good at reasoning, like complex reasoning tasks and code generation. It's very efficient at that.
So if you're in a field where you need to, solve really intricate problems or you're a programmer, Maverick's the one to watch.
Absolutely. If you're interested in how AI can really assist with those kinds of, technical challenges, Maverick has tremendous potential.
Okay, Scout Maverick. And then there's the one with the really impressive name, LLaMA 4 Behemoth. Still in development, but 288 billion active parameters and over 2 trillion in total. What's the goal with Behemoth? I mean, it sounds like a behemoth.
Okay. Yeah, the name is very fitting. Think of parameters as connections in a network. Like the more you have, the more complex the problems you can solve, generally speaking.
So bigger network, bigger brain, kind of.
In a way, yes. And the sheer scale of Behemoth, it's really a statement. It's designed to tackle the most demanding intellectual challenges out there. Things like really advanced problems in STEM fields, benchmarks that test complex reasoning. It's about pushing the limits of what AI can do.
So like the real bleeding edge.
Exactly. It gives us a glimpse into what the future of AI could look like.
All right. Now let's get a little technical here. They're using something called Mixture of Experts, or MOE, in the architecture of LLaMA 4.0. Can you explain that? But, pretend I'm not an AI engineer.
Sure. Imagine that the model is like a team of specialists. Each expert is really good at a specific task, right?
Okay, I can picture that.
So with MOE, when you give the model a task, only the most relevant experts are activated. Like, you wouldn't call a plumber to fix your electrical wiring.
Right, you'd call an electrician.
Exactly. So it's a modular design. You only use the parts of the model that are actually needed for the job.
So it's more efficient, right? Because you're not running this entire massive model for every single task.
Exactly. And that's one of the key things that makes these large models more practical. Keeps them from being computationally too expensive.
So it's not just about making them bigger and smarter. It's about making them smarter about how they use their smarts.
So that's a great way to put it. And that efficiency is really important, right? Because it makes these sophisticated AI tools more accessible, more useful in the real world.
Yeah, definitely. Time is money, as they say. Now, LLaMA 4.0, we talked about this a little bit earlier, but it's not just text anymore, right?
Right. Yeah, it's a big deal. It's natively multimodal now, meaning it can understand and process text, images, video, audio, all within the same system.
So it's not just that they've like stitched together a bunch of different models, right? It's one model that can handle all these different types of data.
Exactly. It's a unified understanding across those different modalities.
So give me some concrete examples. Like, what can it actually do now that it couldn't do before?
Well, think about automatic subtitling.
Right.
But now it's not just transcribing the audio, it's understanding the visuals too. So the subtitles can be much more accurate, more nuanced.
That makes sense.
Or imagine creating a video from a text description. But now, because it understands the text and it knows how to generate video, it can create something much more detailed, more contextually appropriate.
So it's not just slapping together random images.
No, it's actually creating something meaningful.
That's pretty amazing.
And then you've got things like analyzing visual data and audio together. Like imagine you're analyzing a video of a sporting event. Now you can combine the commentary with the actual visuals to get a much richer understanding of what's happening.
That's a good example.
So the possibilities are really exciting. It's not just about making existing things better. It's about opening up entirely new ways to analyze data and create content.
Okay, let's talk a little bit more about that huge context window we mentioned with LLaMA 4 Scout, 10 million tokens. I mean, it really underscores how much information it can process. How does this directly address some of the challenges that, people might face when they're working with lots of data? Like, I can imagine researchers, analysts, anyone who has to deal with, large volumes of information.
Yeah, if you've ever tried to work with a really long document using an older language model, you've probably run into limitations. Like the model just can't remember everything. It kind of loses track.
Right.
But with 10 million tokens, LLaMA 4.0 can handle these huge texts much more effectively. It can analyze them more deeply, create better summaries, and really find those subtle connections that you might miss otherwise.
So it's like having a much larger working memory.
Exactly. It streamlines the entire process of working with complex information. It's a real game changer for anyone who deals with large amounts of data.
Okay. So we've talked about the technical capabilities, but it's not just about the technology itself, right? It's about how it's being used.
Yeah.
And Meta is being pretty strategic about integrating LLaMA 4.0 into its platforms. So WhatsApp, Instagram, Messenger, even their Meta AI devices. How significant is this integration?
It's hugely significant.
Yeah.
Because, they're bringing this advanced AI directly to where billions of people are already interacting every day.
Right. It's not just a research project anymore.
Exactly. By putting LLaMA 4.0 into these platforms, they're making it part of our daily lives. It becomes a more natural part of how we communicate, how we interact with information.
So it's less of a specialized tool and more of a ubiquitous technology.
Exactly. And that raises some really interesting questions about how we'll interact with AI in the future. It's going to be fascinating to see how this plays out.
Definitely. Okay. Let's shift gears a bit and talk about the real-world impact. The potential applications are just massive.
Yeah, absolutely. Across so many different sectors. In education, for example, you can imagine much more sophisticated tools for creating educational content. Really intelligent tutoring systems that can adapt to individual learning styles.
So more personalized education.
Yeah, and even AI that can analyze those learning patterns to really tailor the learning experience to each student.
That would be amazing. What about in the social sciences? I mean, they deal with a lot of text data, right?
Oh, absolutely. Imagine being able to analyze huge volumes of social media posts, historical documents, to really understand trends, patterns, shifts in public opinion. That's what LLaMA 4.0 can do. It can perform this really deep semantic and contextual analysis.
So it's not just about, counting keywords anymore.
No, it's about understanding the meaning, the context, the nuances of the language.
And what about STEM fields? Obviously, they benefit from this kind of power too, right?
Of course. In engineering, other STEM disciplines, LLaMA 4.0 can be a huge asset. You can use it to help solve complex math problems, design better algorithms, run those computationally intensive simulations. It can even help with programming.
So it's like a really smart research assistant.
Yeah, and one that's always available.
That's amazing. And media and communication, I mean, that whole landscape's changing so rapidly already. What kind of impact do you see LLaMA 4.0 having there?
Well, we can expect to see some big changes in how content is created and curated.
Yeah.
We'll probably see much more accurate transcription of audiovisual media. Like, imagine real-time transcription that's not just accurate, but actually understands the context of what's being said.
That's a big step forward.
And even things like, automating some of those editorial tasks,
Mm.
which could free up human editors to focus on more creative work.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, digital health. That's a field where accuracy and privacy are paramount. What kind of potential do you see there?
It's a really interesting area. LLaMA 4.0 could be used to process complex medical histories, generate those detailed medical reports, and even do things like, interpreting medical images in combination with spoken descriptions of symptoms.
So, like, it's not just looking at an x-ray, it's listening to the doctor's notes, too.
Exactly. And that could lead to more accurate diagnoses, more personalized treatments.
That's really powerful. And what about business and finance? I mean, they're always looking for an edge.
Well, LLaMA 4.0 could be used for things like, really sophisticated predictive analysis, generating those comprehensive financial reports, even providing advice on complex financial decisions.
So it's not just crunching numbers, it's understanding the bigger picture.
Exactly. It's about combining data analysis with real-world knowledge.
Okay, so it's clear that LLaMA 4.0 has the potential to be incredibly disruptive across a wide range of industries. So stepping back a bit, what does this release really mean for Meta? How does it position them in the AI landscape?
Well, it definitely establishes them as a major player. They're not just playing catch-up anymore. They're innovating, pushing the boundaries.
So it's a statement in a way.
I think so. And the improvements we've talked about, the scalability, the multimodality, the efficiency, all of that, it shows a real commitment to advancing the field.
And that move to integrate it into their products, that's a big deal too, right?
Absolutely. It's about democratizing access to AI, making it available to a much wider audience.
And then you've got those models like Behemoth that are still in development, which suggests they're not slowing down anytime soon.
Right. Yeah. They're clearly committed to this.
Yeah.
And that's exciting because it means we can expect to see even more innovation, even more powerful AI tools in the future.
So for our listeners, the takeaway here is that LLaMA 4.0 isn't just another tech announcement. It's a real step change in AI capabilities, and it has the potential to change the way we work, the way we learn, the way we live.
I think that's a great way to put it. And it's not just about the big picture, right?
Yeah.
It's about how this technology can impact your own life, your own work, your own interests.
Exactly. So as you're thinking about LLaMA 4.0 and all the things we've discussed, consider this. With its ability to understand and process information across text, images, audio, what new possibilities does that open up for you? How could you use this technology to enhance your own work, your own creative pursuits?
It's a powerful set of tools, and it's just the beginning.
Definitely. All right, that's it for this deep dive on LLaMA 4.0. Thanks for listening, and we'll catch you next time.
Thanks for having me.